Introduction. Majority of the policy makers understand the need to identify the entities and instruments which facilitate growth of entrepreneurship in a state or location. This has led to increased interest in ecosystems as an approach for understanding the climate for growth of entrepreneurship. This approach suggests that entrepreneurship spreads and scales in an environment which considers various stakeholders who play different roles. These roles may be with varied goals, and expands on consideration of only entrepreneurs responsible for driving growth. This approach considers interdependence of various stakeholders and factors that facilitate entrepreneurship growth in a specific location. There has been a lot of debate about the standardized specification of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. However, there is a larger consensus among researchers to view it from a systems perspective. Higher degree of associations among the elements of this ecosystem entails this perspective. It helps measurement and subsequent comparison of prevalent ecosystems required to make policy interventions, in case there are structural deficiencies necessary to facilitate entrepreneurs through instruments of policy. Entrepreneur, entrepreneurship and enterprise. In order to understand entrepreneurial ecosystem, you need to know who is an entrepreneur, what is enterprise, and what is entrepreneurship. Let us understand these terms first. Entrepreneur. This is a description of an entrepreneur in a classic term. This explains entrepreneur as a business founder and a small business owner. However, there is much more than that. Every business founder or owner may not necessarily be an entrepreneur. They are the visionaries, the risk takers, the innovators, the leaders and much more. They are basically individuals or groups having unique characteristics and personality types. Let us briefly describe their characteristics. Characteristics of an entrepreneur. Definition of an entrepreneur is not permanent. We can only understand and keep on defining the term by learning more about different types of entrepreneurs. What do they do, why do they do and how do they do? Given below are the characteristics found usually in entrepreneur. They are visionaries and agile. They are innovative and creative. They try to solve a problem. They are passionate about their business and work. They are the risk takers and have the appetite for taking calculated risk. They have perseverance and resilience. They are determined and have ability to overcome hardship. They are the leaders. They are focused and action-oriented. They are accountable and responsible. They have the ability to sense the environment and convert adversity or problem into an opportunity by providing solution to it. And entrepreneurship. Simply speaking, entrepreneurship is what entrepreneur does, including the process and ways of doing it. The entrepreneur is central to entrepreneurship and enterprise. The entrepreneur is the key stakeholder and entrepreneurship is the process to set up an enterprise. The term entrepreneur is generally used to describe individual or group of individuals who set up and manage their own business. The entrepreneur is central to the next concept, entrepreneurship, which makes things happen for the entrepreneurs, according to most popular definition with innovation focus and important of conducive conditions. Entrepreneurship is the pursuit of market opportunities to create future innovative goods and services discovered, evaluated and exploited to extract social and economic value from the environment, leading ultimately to new independent business, venture creation. Shane and Venkataraman, 2000. They extended the analysis of entrepreneurship by offering an overarching conceptual framework that explains the different parts of the entrepreneurial process: the opportunities, the people who pursue them, the skills and strategies used to organize and exploit opportunities, and the environmental conditions favorable to them in a coherent way. Entrepreneurship is the process of creating or seizing an opportunity and pursuing it regardless of the resources currently controlled. Timmons, 1994. Peter Drucker defines entrepreneurship again based around innovation as a systematic innovation, which consists in the purposeful and organized search for changes, and it is the systematic analysis of the opportunities such changes might offer for economic and social innovation. The analysis of this definition reflects entrepreneurship involves systematic innovation. There is a purposeful or organized service. It focuses on systematic analysis of opportunities. These changes offer economic or social innovation. Entrepreneurship is the process influenced by factors like social, economic, psychological, and other factors. The process involves visioning, mobilization of resources, and setting up of an enterprise by an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aim at leveraging the identified opportunity and capture value. From a measurement perspective, entrepreneurship is an abstract concept depending on the focus of definition. If we look at entrepreneurship from a policy perspective, the complexity and dynamics of processes involved can depend on the level taken, which can infuse more abstraction as level goes up. Entrepreneurship requires passion and commitment towards the development of solutions for the problem, opportunity identified or targeted. It needs risk-taking, team formation, planning, financing, operations monitoring, scaling competencies, and other capacities to start and sustain a commercial outfit. Enterprise. An enterprise is the outcome, once formed transacts products and services, creates employment opportunities, and contributes to the national income of the state. The core work of an entrepreneur starts with intent of enterprise development, which is not a one-time activity. The objective of the enterprise development process is to bring a positive societal change by stimulating economic activity. Rather, it is a series of activities that start with investing time and knowledge into understanding the needs of the venture. The creation of venture involves attracting investment, building business linkages, planning and setting up systems and processes, and deploying resources for enterprises so that they can compete and grow on a continuous basis. Ecosystem. Arthur Tansley coined the term ecosystem in 1935 in the domain of ecological sciences while referring to interactions of organisms with its surroundings in a spatial unit responsible for the sustainability of that unit. The ecosystem relevant to context of economic entities can be seen as whole set of stakeholders, resources and processes with their interdependencies, at varied stages of life cycles. The life cycles may consist of all matters of interest in the relevant space, characterized by intrinsic and extrinsic factors which influence stakeholder in focus. The ecosystem is characterized by internal and external factors which have interdependency and has been responsible for dynamic nature of the ecosystem evolution. For example, resource limitations affect the growth and behavior of organisms in a habitat, which over time can affect the resources in the external environment. The goals of ecosystem approach and ecosystem management has been to achieve sustainability of the focus entities or the stakeholders within the ecosystem. The ecosystem approach or systems view can be used from a locational perspective or process perspective. There is more inclination among researchers to use the process view in a specific context to demarcate stakeholders of interest. For example, understanding entrepreneurial growth in India who are innovating to participate in global value chain in a free trade context will lead us to see the ecosystem from a process perspective spread across multiple locations including India. Entrepreneurial ecosystem. The ecosystem is a built-on dynamic interaction of social, political, economic and cultural elements within a region. The entrepreneurship ecosystem means various constituents like entrepreneurs, organizational stakeholders, employees and other individuals, and organizations etc., which facilitate or limit the development of entrepreneurs in a location, region of interest. These constituents of the system like institutions, individuals aspiring to be entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs groups, associations, other complementary factors etc. These factors may influence the progress of current entrepreneurs, individuals aspiring to be entrepreneurs, individuals who could be candidates for entrepreneurship in future etc., are called stakeholders. There can be other stakeholders like policy institutions, educational setups, financial institutions and investors, R&D centers, civil society outfits, industry associations, unions, legal institutions, multinationals, etc. In spite of multiplicity of these factors in the ecosystem driving or hindering entrepreneurship, certain factors may have relatively more influence than others. For example, we can see certain cities in India like Bengaluru, Hyderabad and few other states have seen more entrepreneurial activity compared to many other Indian cities. It may also depend on the stage of ecosystem evolution in specific places, meaning a mature ecosystem is likely to foster more entrepreneurship. Also, these facilitating factors need to work in tandem to cultivate the right ambience for the growth. All these entities and stakeholders are connected directly or indirectly, formally or informally, accelerating or decelerating performance in the given environment. The interactions between these various subsystems help achieve the ecosystem purpose. Mason and Brown, 2014. The conductive ecosystem encourages innovation and risk-taking, which are key factors for startup growth. Entrepreneurship and ecosystem. Entrepreneurship ecosystem is the social and economic environment that affects entrepreneurship. It is an interaction amongst the set of independent actors and factors that lead to encourage, nurture and promote entrepreneurship in any area. To understand the entrepreneurship ecosystem, we need to know the elements or factors that are responsible to nurture entrepreneurship in a society and help entrepreneurs to thrive. If you look at the process and various stages of entrepreneurship developments, you will observe that the ecosystem comprises of the following: entrepreneurs, traits, characteristics and skills, social culture, educational programs, infrastructure, markets, policies, government agencies, institutional support, incubators and accelerators, co-working spaces, mentors, co-founders, consultants, freelancers, events by industry association and chamber of commerce, availability of human and non-human resources, availability of wealth and capital. A detailed discussion of these factors are given in section 2.6. To appreciating this highly complex multi-level construct, Theodoraki and Meseghem, 2017, requires one to diligently study the numerous factors and agents that give rise to the various specific elements of entrepreneurship ecosystem. This also includes the complex and unique interactions created by them. Process view, process of entrepreneurship, is preferred way to assess ecosystems and, therefore, help compare entrepreneurial performances along with reasons across regions. It brings in focus all the stakeholders and agencies at play in the creation of an enterprise by entrepreneurs. In a nutshell, we can say that all the stakeholders and the agencies, both government and private, that has a role to play in creation of an enterprise by the entrepreneurs form part of the ecosystem. Various researchers and domain think tanks have suggested different process frameworks to systematically understand entrepreneurial life cycle, which can be kept in consideration while examining the ecosystem. A general understanding is that the process starts with identification and leveraging an opportunity and translate the idea into a business setup to create, sustain and capture the value so created through the entrepreneurial operation. The operation could be aimed at creation of services or products. According to Gruber, 2002, there are 3 phases of the startup entrepreneurial journey. First phase is pre-founding stage, opportunity identification and evaluation. Second stage is founding stage, business plan, resource gathering, incorporation and market entry, and third stage is early development stage, building the company and market penetration. Hisrich et al. 2017, suggest 4 stages as identifying and evaluating the opportunity, developing the business plan, determining the resources required, and managing the resulting enterprise. 4-stage view is also supported by other researchers who classify these stages as opportunity finding, technology application, firm setup and the product, service transaction. One way to comprehend the ecosystem influences is by looking at the entrepreneurship process across stages of innovation, triggering event, implementation and growth. Hirsch et al. 2017. Opportunity identification is an innovative act which is a function of personal factors like achievement motivation, risk-taking capacity, personal values, education, experience and locus of control. Innovation can be also triggered by awareness about opportunities and influence of role models, networks, family traditions, etc. For example, proliferations of startups in India in last decades with many extraordinary successes by some entrepreneurs, who are also followed as role models by the younger generation. The successes creates force in action among many and inspire them to take a plunge into entrepreneurship. Personal factors influence triggering event stage like job satisfaction, joblessness, age along with some policy support or incentives, can accelerate or trigger the process. Environmental factors like competition, availability of resources, incubation facilities, government support etc., influences stages, triggering event and implementation. Commitment, leadership and managerial competencies become important factors during implementation as well as growth. Important factors of the ecosystem which influence both implementations as well growth are government policies and access to suppliers, market, partnerships and finances. It is needless to mention here that for the entrepreneur to grow and succeed it is vital to have a strong ecosystem in a country. Factors influencing entrepreneurial ecosystem. From getting the idea to opportunity identification, solution development, its evaluation and final implementation, successful entrepreneurship requires a host of skills. These can be summed up as technical skills, commercial competencies, communication skills, opportunity identification, problem-solving ability, planning skills, organizing skills, operational management, financial management, human resource mobilization, governance skills, innovation and networking skills, with the ability to take calculated risks. According to the Entrepreneurial Ecosystems Around the Globe and Company Growth Dynamics report by World Economic Forum, 2013, 3 areas of entrepreneurial ecosystems matter most for entrepreneurs and their access to markets, human capital, workforce and finance. Though there are major differences in entrepreneurial ecosystems that exist from one part of the world to another, there are also similarities in the issues facing entrepreneurs around the globe, particularly when it comes to early-stage companies. There is a potential alignment issue among these early-stage companies with governments who often adopt a strong country, regional focus in their entrepreneurial ecosystem policies. Isenberg, 2011, has categorized these various elements into 6 main activities. These activities are policy, finance, culture, institutional and infrastructural supports, human capital and markets. Let us learn them in detail. 1. Policy. The government regulatory domain plays a pivotal role in deciding the structure of the entrepreneurial ecosystem to the extent that governmental policy can make or break the ecosystem. The regulatory policy framework element consisting of components such as the ease to start a new business with respect to licenses and registrations required, tax incentives including tax holidays available to new startups, laws that are conducive to business growth, determines the ability to open and expand new businesses. The government policy helps in attracting the entrepreneurs to initiate the venture. If ease of doing business is favorable, the entrepreneur may be encouraged to start the new venture. 2. Finance. The supply and accessibility of financial reserves for entrepreneurs is crucial not only at the initial incubation stage but also help in maintaining the growth trajectory. Finance is required when the entrepreneurs need to acquire more resources like recruiting people, or buying or leasing capital assets as well as raw materials, or investing in marketing and sales. These financial reserves can range from the traditional sources like friends and family to the relatively modern forms like angel investors, private equity partners or venture capital as well as access to debt from banks, FIs or open markets. Needless to add that a wider and greater availability of financial resources accelerates the scaling up of the business growth. 3. Culture. The culture of any region is the soul of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that takes form in the region. It is said that an entrepreneurial ecosystem without a strong cultural support for entrepreneurship lacks the impetus to carry ahead for long. Cultural aspects like cultivating a positive image of entrepreneurship, having an inherent spirit of self-reliance with a preference for self-employment, tolerance of failure of entrepreneurship by developing adequate risk appetite, culture of research and innovativeness and celebrating the success stories of role models provide the support system for the entrepreneurial ecosystem to prosper. 4. Institutional and infrastructural supports. The institutional and infrastructural supports consist of the various formal and informal agencies that help in business creation and their expansion. These may be physical infrastructures like transportation in the form of roadways, railways and air connectivity which provide the requisite accessibility. Similarly, the Internet connectivity to the World Wide Web which serves as the medium for information exchange. Besides this, the support system consists of agents providing professional services like financial planning, accounting, human resources, legal advisors etc. which team up to form the entrepreneurial networks. 5. Human capital. The human capital represents the quality and quantity of the workforce available at the disposal of the entrepreneur. Human capital is a multifaceted element and depending on the specific skill set that the workforce possess, gives shape to the type of working environment that it can generate. The various components of this domain are the management and technical talent pool available, the level of education and training especially technical education and training that the workforce holds, the experience the entrepreneurs possess, ease of access to immigrant workforce etc. Nurturing of the human capital is essential to sustenance of the ecosystem. 6. Markets. A receptive market setup consisting of customers who create the requisite demand is essential for the businesses to grow. Entrepreneurial ecosystems need access to such markets with the presence of the appropriate customers who are willing to pay for the entrepreneur's products and services. These markets can be domestic as well as foreign markets, wholesale or niche markets, small, medium or large markets where individuals, businesses as well as institutional market participants can interact and transact. Entrepreneur, innovation and ecosystem. The rates of startup failures are much more than successes. Innovation is the key factor for effective entrepreneurial success. Innovation is the application of knowledge to produce new knowledge. What defines an entrepreneur is their attitude to change. The entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it and exploits it as an opportunity. To exploit change, entrepreneur innovates, Drucker 2014. Channels and sources of innovation and its commercial acceptability lies in the better understanding of the whole system or ecosystem. It is pertinent to understand innovation, its sources and its linkages with prevailing entrepreneurial ecosystem being the key factor in growth of startup firms. Innovation has an anchor role to find solutions for problems we face in our day-to-day life as individual, society, states or any stakeholder of interest. Various known researchers in economics literature put innovation as a default conditions for growth of effective entrepreneurship. Schumpeter defined an entrepreneur as an innovator. In his words, the entrepreneur in an advanced economy is an individual who introduces something new in the economy, a method of production not yet tested by experience in the branch of manufacturing, a product with which consumers are not yet familiar, a new source of raw material or of new markets and the like. Hence, entrepreneurs are mostly actors who create innovation to find solutions. The innovation, creativity and risk-bearing are an integral part of being an entrepreneur. It involves the ability to create and conceptualize something new, which can consist of anything from a new product to a new distribution system to method for developing a new organizational structure. Entrepreneurship centers on novelty and the generation of variety in the marketplace and means that the processes of innovation are at work. Innovation can take various forms like new product introduction, new services, new methods of operation and production, exploration of new markets, reimagination of business models, reorganization of industry structure through disruptive strategies, etc. Innovation can happen through multiple ways. They are invention. Invention means development of a new product, service or process, also termed as radical innovations. Duplication. Duplication means replication of existing product, tweaked to create a new look, feel or utility. This is also called as incremental innovation. Extension. Extension is augmentation in existing product, service or idea to stretch the scope of usage or utility. Synthesis. Lastly, the creation of new item or service based on collage of existing multiple innovations, concepts and elements. Innovation happens usually as a struggle to solutions to unresolved problems or gaps in the existing solution. sometimes happens through unexpected occurrences. Entrepreneurs find ideas from the customer feedback and sometimes from the competitors. Many times while grappling with process issues, new process ideas come up from the process owners or business partners. In a constantly changing market, new ideas are always presenting. From the above, it should be evident that sources of innovation, its fructification into a viable product or service and commercial acceptability has a lot to do with the prevailing ecosystem before it can be fully launched as a product or a service in the targeted marketplace. Process of innovation. The following diagram summarizes the process of innovation in an organization. Generation of ideas. Experimentation. Evaluation. Identification and selection of most suitable ideas. Development of prototype. Commercialization. Figure 2.1 Process of innovation. Ecosystem challenges. Though entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ecosystem are a necessity for the growth of trade and economy and the overall progress of the nation, yet there are many barriers that hamper the growth. The challenges are: 1. Policy barriers. The area of concern include regulatory or policy barriers, identified by bureaucratic red tape, tax compliance burdens, regulatory requirements and policy indecisiveness and weaknesses in the overall business environment. 2. Access to technology and intellectual property rights issues. Access to technology, patent and copyright issues, are some of the other problems plaguing entrepreneurs, in addition to problems caused by lack of access to markets, effective transport, communication and supply chain and distribution systems, cultural and social barriers and weak or inefficient judicial process. 3. Intrinsic challenges. The challenges can also be categorized as intrinsic and extrinsic. The intrinsic reasons consist of factors like societal bias towards specific groups, communities, illiteracy and lack of capability, limited family backing, etc. 4. Extrinsic challenges. The extrinsic factors include organizational challenges such as access to financing and investment, natural resources, limited market or access to potential market, human resource, etc. There are also environmental factors that form part of the extrinsic factors, and they can be categorized into socio-cultural factors like beliefs, attitudes and values of a society towards the subject of entrepreneurship are known as the entrepreneurial culture of that society. In addition to this are regulatory factors and government licensing and policies and associated factors like bribery, corruption, etc. Since no single person owns the ecosystem, as there are multiple stakeholders of varied types, the goals also vary depending on the nature of their role and scope in the system. Hence, we cannot say that entrepreneurial success or job creation is the only goal for states to develop a conducive entrepreneurial ecosystem. For government it may be state revenues and job creation. For financial institutions it may be their own profitability and growth. For larger corporates, it may be their own sustainability and to assure new technology solutions in their targeted markets, or for their clients which are getting developed, tested and tried in various technology incubation centers or accelerator sites. Hence multiple stakeholders must benefit in order for entrepreneurship ecosystem to be self-sustaining. According to World Bank, which calculates the annual Ease of Doing Business Index, there are 12 areas of business regulation that are taken into account while measuring the ease with which business can be done. 10 of these areas are starting a business, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, registering property, getting credit, protecting minority investors, paying taxes, trading across borders, enforcing contracts, and resolving insolvency, are included in the Ease of Doing Business score and Ease of Doing Business ranking. The Ease of Doing Business also measures regulation on employing workers and contracting with the government, though they are not included in the Ease of Doing Business score and ranking, World Bank, 2020. 2. Greater government spending. Higher corporate governance. Greater government spending creates strong institutions that promote equity and reduce chances of corruption. 3. Low rates of taxes and incentives. Low rates of taxes and incentives on entrepreneur-driven business creation are some of the other ways barriers to entrepreneurship development can be overcome. 4. Use of technology. The use of technology through online digital initiatives also goes a long way in reducing bottlenecks and delays and streamlining and procedures. As stated by Mason and Brown, 2013, in their report, Entrepreneurial Ecosystems and Growth-Oriented Entrepreneurship, published by OECD, policy intervention should be a holistic approach focusing on entrepreneurial actors within the ecosystem, the resource providers within the ecosystem, entrepreneurial connectors within the ecosystem and the entrepreneurial environment of the ecosystem. 5. Inclusion in educational programs. Introducing entrepreneurship as a course in the curriculum of schools and colleges will create awareness amongst students, and seed of entrepreneurial thinking, mindset can be sown at early childhood. Various steps are being taken in this line. Entrepreneurship is now being introduced in schools as well. 6. Recognition and appreciation to young entrepreneurs and startups. Different awards ceremonies should be conducted to recognize and appreciate the hard work of the entrepreneurs on regular basis. This will have twofold benefit. It will give encouragement to the entrepreneurs. On the other hand, it will motivate others to take up entrepreneurship as a preferred career option and not as last resort. It is therefore of prime importance that governments and policy makers ideate and develop suitable metrics that can measure individual ecosystems for their strengths and weaknesses, so that it helps in assessment and taking suitable corrective measure on a dynamic basis. Entrepreneurship is the process which an entrepreneur goes through to fructify ideas, competencies and commitment of entrepreneurs into an enterprise. Entrepreneurship is the process influenced by factors like social economic, psychological and other factors. The process involves visioning, mobilization of resources and setting up of an enterprise by an entrepreneur or entrepreneurs, which is meant to leverage the identified opportunity and capture value. There is increased interest in ecosystems as an approach for understanding the climate for growth of entrepreneurship. The understanding of this interdependency helps entrepreneurs and other stakeholders, especially policy makers, understand process modalities in the whole context. Important buckets of influence include policy, finance, culture, institutional and infrastructural supports, human capital and markets. Innovation is the key factor for effective entrepreneurial success, and its sources and acceptability lies in the better understanding of the whole system or ecosystem. There are challenges in managing and making this ecosystem conducive, as the goals of the stakeholders are varied, opportunities have a window and resources are mostly limited. Hence, states should effectively monitor ecosystems for their strengths.